Dog!
When I was a teen, I became obsessed with a game called Jagged Alliance Deadly Games. What would now get labeled a roguelike tactical strategy game was like nothing I'd ever seen before. I put together what little cash I had and sent a money order to the only storefront that I could find that had the game on back order. Weeks, months, what felt like years later, the box came in, and I got to play it. Randomized missions, team members you had to budget, hire, and manage both during missions and afterward, dealing with clashing personalities, skill sets, morale, and general trustworthiness. It might also be the only game I can point to that had a narrated inventory screen.
A helmet in good condition.
Others might just take the payload and run as soon as the mission was over, and each battle was a nail-biting shootout where one stray bullet could bring everything crashing down. It was a blast. So when Jagged Alliance publisher turned developer Surtech announced they would make a third game, many, including myself, hyped themselves up about it. A story-focused follow-up, ditching the roguelite elements in favor of a single, conquerable country map, just like the first game. With 4 years of lightning-fast graphics and technological advancement, more verticality, interactivity, and deeper strategy, Jagged Alliance 2 hit stores in 1999 with a whimper, not a bang. Despite being a follow-up to Surtech's best-selling series outside of Wizardry, and selling well overseas, it bombed in the States. GameSpot later recognized it as one of 1999's best games no one played. How did it stumble out of the gate on launch, only to become one of the most celebrated tactical strategy games ever made? Let's dive into the brutal challenge, inspiring tactical design, and the guns and money of Jagged Alliance 2.
When you were playing that record, what were you thinking?
Guns and money, guns and money.
When you were playing that record, what were you thinking?
Guns and money, guns and money.
First off, I want to thank GOG for sponsoring this video. In nearly 9 years of YouTube, I've never taken a sponsorship deal once, despite many offers. GOG's game preservation program aims to make games playable forever. In the interest of keeping retro games alive, we are allied in this fight. Even on Steam, I couldn't get Jagged Alliance 2 to run without lots of manual tweaks and modding. But through GOG's new update, Jagged Alliance 2 ran right out of the box. I'll dig into this program more later on, but for now, back to the video. The game's opening cutscene introduces you to Enrico Civaldori, the exiled ruler of a small, third-world country named Arulco. He meets with a mercenary contractor, you, in secret, to hire you for a deadly mission, to reclaim his nation and liberate his people. He faked his death with the help of his trusted allies after his wife killed Enrico's father and framed him for the murder. It's classic 1990s CGI, but there are little touches here and there that add to the tone and atmosphere, like how Enrico loads his handgun before entering the cafe, as if he had been looking over his shoulder for the past 10 years. Enrico's wife, Didrana, is a ruthless monarch who beats and oppresses her subjects at her pleasure. Though Arulco is fictional, the game paints obvious parallels to the caudillos in Cuba and South America, most famously Fidel Castro. As a mercenary contractor, you hire a team through the Association of International Mercenaries. They come in all shapes and sizes: snipers, night ops, explosive engineers, mechanics, and even doctors. The idea of hiring mercs from a private organization like AIM might seem far-fetched, but as history has shown, sometimes reality is stranger than fiction. The publicized use of contractors like Halliburton, KBR, and Blackwater, in conjunction with US military operations in the Middle East, injects a chilling dose of reality into these games. Sending private military into a war zone with guns is really just a contract and a payment away. From here, you team up with the Ragtag Rebellion, hiding underneath the small town of Amerta. After years of oppression and dictatorship, they are slow to trust. But after providing indisputable proof that Enrico sent you, they have no alternative than to accept your help. Cutaways show Didrana's reactions to your progress in Arulco. She grows more and more furious at her personal assistant, Elliot, as he shows up each time with more bruises from her incessant beatings. The main plot is simple at its core. Far more interesting are all the ways you can accomplish your overall goal of taking down the Tyrant Queen. It's more of a premise to set a foundation for you to make your own story. And that's where Jagged Alliance 2 thrives, in emergent gameplay. Once you've gained their trust, you can recruit some of the rebels as permanent members of your squads, no salary required. And there are many notable and memorable people you can converse with in friendly, direct, and threatening tones. To convince some NPCs, you'll need to show them a meaningful item, such as a letter from Enrico to gain their trust. Others want a simple bribe, so you draw money from your account and hand over the cold, hard cash to them in person. It's mechanics and systems like these which blur the line between tactical strategy and full-blown RPG. You can interact with civilians, chat with bar patrons, fight in an underground boxing ring, or work on various quests that the citizens of Arulco bring to you.
Lethal, that's what you are.
Jagged Alliance 2 is a mix of tactical, turn-based squad combat, and business management, comparable to XCOM but with more role-playing opportunities. However, like the original XCOM, this game doesn't hold your hand like modern games do. And combined with some rough difficulty spikes and some missing quality-of-life features, beginners can feel oppressed. The game's menu and management sim aspects are immersive, with a lot of humor and world-building thrown in. Once your mission briefing is done, you boot up your in-universe laptop and get a nice splash of 90s internet nostalgia, complete with mock accounting software showing your finances. You have a fully functional web browser, and Enrico will react to your progress via email. That brings to light one of the most interesting aspects of Jagged Alliance. You may kill it on the battlefield, but bankruptcy can be just as deadly as bullets. An email sitting in your inbox invites you to fill out a psychoanalysis test, a clever way to initiate character creation. One of my favorites among these hilarious questions asked you what you would do with a certain purple dinosaur mascot. Those who survived it can confirm Barney was the Fortnite of the 90s. Over 2 decades later, I reference some of these questions even today, as if they're living in my head rent-free. Your answers will inform what your specializations are, so choose wisely. At the end of the test, you're asked to distribute skill points. You can sacrifice some expertise in mechanical for better marksmanship, for example. Once you have your main character set up, you'll log into AIM's website and browse through their selection of hardened mercs. You can sort these mercs by price or by the most to least skilled in any profession: marksmanship, mechanical, medical, explosives, etc. It's good practice to hire at least one merc of each specialty. Explosive experts can throw grenades more reliably, plant bombs, and disable traps that go boom. Mechanics can repair guns, gear, and vehicles, disarm non-bomb traps, and use lockpicks. Medics are invaluable in patching up wounds from bleeding, but also for long-term care to heal those wounds up to full, as they still deduct your maximum health even when bandaged. Wisdom aids in detecting traps and making observations, but also reflects one's ability to teach skills to others. And leadership is essential when convincing certain NPCs to see your way or to train militia. Pay attention to the biographies of these mercs. Personal failings, squabbles with other members, and hints to their reactions to potential roadblocks ahead are all part and parcel to working with hired guns. And the wide variety of backgrounds you can hire from make the colorful cast that much more enjoyable to work with. From an ex-SAS sniper, an Aussie mechanic bomb expert, to a former Danish schoolteacher turned gun for hire. These aren't faceless goons, they're people with strengths and weaknesses. Down the road, a competitor to AIM launches, called Merc. It's essentially the Alibaba or Wish.com of the mercenary world, where you can get a bargain on hired guns for a couple $100s a day. But the hires aren't exactly going to win awards. When you're going broke, however, beggars can't be choosers. Eventually, you'll gain access to other sites, like the appropriately tacky Bobby Ray's Guns and Things. Here you can load up your shopping cart with pistols, ammo, explosives, and Kevlar to your heart's content. But purchases aren't immediately available to use. Being that you're in a remote third-world country, even the best shipping service in the world takes time. You'll have to take over the airport in Drassen so that you can receive the crates once they're flown in. And even so, you're in trouble if Deidrana takes over a shipping destination while you're not defending it. You may even lose a couple of items in your shipment due to sticky-fingered airport staff. The game literally drops you into the battlefield via helicopter, so you'll need to master tactical view and fast. Your agility skill increases your total action points, and any stresses on your merc will temporarily remove action points. If you run too long, depleting your stamina, take too many hits, or go too long without sleep, your mercs will become almost useless until they're healed and rested up. When in combat, it's a good idea to run instead of walk. You'll get much further per turn. There isn't an easy on-screen button, so you'll have to press R to enable it. Aimed shots are key to actually landing successful hits. While hovering over an enemy, you can right-click multiple times to wager more action points for added accuracy. A yellow number indicates you're at maximum accuracy. The vanilla game does not give you a percentage to hit meter, so it's all educated guesswork. If you have a clear line of sight and a good range, aim high for a headshot, low to cripple. Note your gun's maximum range by right-clicking the weapon and looking at its stats. Shooting beyond that is a gamble, but you can always hit the F key to get the exact distance to any square. If you're rocking a machine gun or an automatic pistol, you can hit B and unleash a hail of bullets. It'll cost you a few extra action points, and at long range, it's hit or miss. But get in close and it's absolutely devastating. Crank up the sound effects, dial back the music, and really feel the impact. Interrupts are comparable to XCOM's Overwatch action. However, instead of ordering your merc to do this action directly, to initiate interrupts, you must let one or more mercs end their turn with surplus action points. If an enemy comes into view before your next turn, the merc gets an immediate second turn to use any action points. This is an important mechanic to master, as enemies will also get interrupts, which could lead to a surprise belly full of lead. Standing tall in an open field is a one-way ticket to the grave. You can switch between 3 stances: standing, crouching, and prone. Lower stances are much slower to move, but ducking or crawling, especially behind cover, makes you a hard target. Your merc may not interrupt if their line of sight to a hostile is blocked, or they're facing the wrong direction. You can turn around by pressing L for look. You can even strafe or moonwalk by alt-clicking if the mood strikes. Jagged Alliance 2 introduced verticality to the series. Pressing Tab toggles between ground and rooftop levels. You can climb any flat rooftop building with enough action points by pressing Page Up or clicking the ladder button. Using any advantage you can in battle is key because you're almost always outnumbered. In my latest playthrough, I picked off a dozen or so enemies in an occupied town using only a few rooftop snipers. When outside of combat, or after a few turns of no enemy sightings, the game will kick you back to real-time mode, often leading to a cat-and-mouse game to find the remaining hostiles. Between each firefight, you need to manage your mercenaries, give them jobs to do, look after their medical, sleep, and supply needs, and take ownership of a steady stream of income. You can see the deployment counter tick down each day for each merc, which signals their inevitable departure. You can try to drag their service out for as long as you can, or you can renew their contracts early if you have the funds. Strategic View is what you'll be spending a good portion of your time on. You see a grid map with the entirety of Arulco on it, with battleship-style letters and numbers to identify each square. There are also 4 layers to the map, which lead to underground mines and subterranean bunkers. To the left is a list of all your mercenaries as rows, and their assignment, sleep status, location, destination, and deployment status as columns. You can click or shift-click their names to select one or more mercs to give them orders. To move a squad, you need to shift-click the whole team, then click the dest, meaning destination, then click the location of the map you want to travel to. Clicking again will add additional travel plans, while right-clicking will trim part of that journey out. Then you can speed time up and watch your squads go into action. You'll want every merc to be doing something. After a rough battle, a merc with high medical skill can act as a doctor and can treat patients over time to convert bandaged health back to full health. Or you can take any merc with a high skill and act as teacher, then assign students to improve that skill. If you can't find anything better to do, you can always have a merc practice any skill on their own. Random encounters with patrols are common. These can be daunting in themselves, but if you want to roll the dice and speed things up, they are auto-resolvable. Once you've blown through your starting funds, you must start bringing in income. This is done primarily through capturing and taking over the gold and silver mines around Arulco. Once you liberate a town, you can approach the head of the local mining commission, and they'll offer you what services they can despite the locals' fear of retaliation. Once you take over a town sector, your mercs can be assigned to train militia for a cost, and will give you significant defense for when enemy forces come knocking. Through experience and further training, these militia will graduate from green to elite soldiers over time. Militia can help your mercs defend a sector, but they can hold their own through auto-resolve battle screen pop-ups. This ebb and flow, taking over sectors, raising their loyalty, then defending them from enemy forces, feels like the beginnings of a grand strategy game. Part of what makes Jagged Alliance 2 brilliant lies in its granular technical depth and obsessive attention to detail. There's a host of tools mercs can use on mission. Wire cutters aren't just a gimmick, they're keys to flanking maneuvers, slicing through fences to open up avenues of attack. Lockpicking rewards the inquisitive, revealing hidden caches of gear in the most unlikely of places. Planting explosives is an art, turning choke points into devastating traps, especially vital against late-game forces that can be oppressive without a tactical advantage. Speaking of firepower, you get access to a selection of pistols, shotguns, and rifles, modeled after real-life firearms. And specialized gear can reward creative solutions to encounters. A duckbill can make your shotguns even more deadly. Scopes can increase your gun's range. Gas the place and walk in with a mask on, unaffected. Use night vision goggles and a silencer to become a quiet predator in the dark. And specialized rounds such as armor-piercing bullets can make the difference between a graze and a kill. You can pass items back and forth between teammates, but if they're out of arm's length, they can toss magazines, guns, or gear over distance. This can be incredibly handy in a bind, but depending on the skills of the thrower and the receiver, a perfect pass may hit a guy in the face, causing damage. And further action is needed to pick it off at the ground. Mercs will warn you of noises and footsteps, even when it's just an approaching civilian. If your truck catches a stray bullet, it'll take damage, necessitating later repair. And the world reacts to your every action, making the aftermath of even a victory hit you in the feels. I saw a militia writhing on the ground after we fended off Deidrana's forces. I knelt down and delivered first aid before they bled out. Usually games treat the win condition as a binary success, but almost everything in Jagged Alliance 2 is a trade-off or compromise. I hired an untrained ice cream truck driver after he offered his services, and more importantly, his truck, only to fall bravely in battle a few days later. I felt like I should have sent flowers or something via the florist website, had I only known who to send them to. The randomized encounters made each playthrough feel unique, and the quests that you can take on feel right at home in an RPG set in the modern world. From getting food supplies for rebels, to recovering a precious historical artifact, rescuing a missing person, or hunting down a dangerous pack of local wildcats. These stories add a sense of humanity between the bloodshed and violence, and remind you what you're fighting for, aside from a steady paycheck. The game exudes a strong sense of charm in its characters, both on and off the battlefield. Phone conversations with mercenaries while negotiating their employment give you a sense of their character. Mercs have catchphrases and unique reactions to story events to make things interesting. Some characters simply have charming voice acting, like the lovable Santos brothers.
I am one of the DeSantos bartending brothers. We are famous Arulco-wide for our drinks.
To say nothing of the fun Easter eggs that fans of the series will appreciate, like the return of Jagged Alliance 1 and Deadly Games characters. Mickey was a quirky Irish arms dealer in Deadly Games, but now he's turned poacher who pays you for bloodcat pelts. Gus Tarballs, the best character, is a mercenary veteran also returning from Deadly Games. He doesn't get as much screen time in this one, but some fun quips here and there still evoke his gritty charisma.
The name's Tarballs. Gus Tarball.
Gave you 10G. It's seed money. Spend it wisely. Had to put up my mobile home to get it.
Once you get past the tough opening act and get a good mining operation going, Jagged Alliance 2 offers an experience not quite like anything else. It can be brutally frustrating when your best men are wounded, or you're out of money and have to hire less qualified mercs, only to see swarms of Deidrana's goons circling your settlements. But when you kick into gear and launch a full-scale assault with machine guns, grenades, rocket launchers, and a plan, it really feels like the third act of an action movie, or a good episode of the A-Team.
I cannot convey just how good it feels.
Jagged Alliance 2 is one of the few games where online forums will strongly recommend playing easy mode on your first run, because that experience is still quite challenging. Enabling sci-fi mode will add a dangerous surprise to the game later on, while also unlocking a quest to gain better armor than is possible playing realistic mode. The fact of the matter is that you have to win every fight. The game just isn't forgiving enough to let you walk away with a dead squad. Use nighttime to your advantage. Enemies will be easier to sneak up on in the dark. If you can get your hands on them, activate and throw chemical brake lights to create a kill zone, making your enemies into easy targets while your mercs stay shrouded in darkness. Toggle stealth by pressing Alt-Z so that you can approach undetected and avoid triggering enemy interrupts. Once you're in a firefight though, remember to disable stealth so you're not slowed down with no benefit. Getting your hands onto long-range rifles takes a few hours and a handful of battles that will be painful to pull off without them. So one tactic to get fancy guns without the fancy prices is to hire expensive mercs for a short period, like a single day, just to get a hold of their gear. Long guns and automatics are scarce in Arulco, so getting a head start with some powerful boomsticks is top priority. 9mm and revolvers only get you so far. You can even dual-wield single-handed weapons too. It adds a few AP to shots, but can make the difference between a whiff and a kill.
They term sleep a death, by which we may be literally said to die daily. I need a nap, and I need it badly.
Take care of your mercs' needs. They need sleep and a doctor like the rest of us. And poor morale can destroy a squad. As necessary as it can be to push them to their breaking point, not everyone is built like Jocko Willink.
Wake up at 1 a.m. Practice at the firing range for hours. Hunt blood cats with nothing but a machete. Train a militia to fight a Romanian dictator. Uncomfortable? Good.
As I mentioned earlier, GOG asked to sponsor this video and to promote their new preservation program. GOG has gone back and proactively fixed a ton of games that were basically unplayable on modern systems, even if the publishers or developers abandoned them. Until GOG's patch last year, I couldn't play Arcanum on my new Windows 11 rig. I missed the boat when the game came out in the 90s, so I would have never had the opportunity to play Westwood's Blade Runner, a game I adore now, had GOG not released the Scum VM-powered re-release a few years ago. The most straightforward and practical kind of preservation is keeping games alive and playable for the masses, plus the obvious benefits like being able to play them offline, something I treasure during a power outage or when the internet goes down, but also the ability to download full-fledged installers for every game you purchase for your own backup library. GOG has recently patched the Ultima, Alone in the Dark, Tomb Raider, and Wing Commander series, plus some of my old-school favorites like Fallout 2 and Vampire the Masquerade Redemption. What makes this important is that GOG is focusing on preserving the pure game experience, with all the original art, music, gameplay quirks, and details. As great as remakes can be, preserving the original experience that inspired the generation of gamers who played it is a vital mission. Imagine if you couldn't play the original Mario or Zelda anymore, and you had to settle with Super Mario Odyssey or Breath of the Wild. Fun games, but they aren't anything like the 1980s originals, whose DNA you can see in its thousands of imitators. Playing Jagged Alliance 2 through GOG is exactly how I experienced it back in the 90s. Sure, you can modify the game with Stracciatella, which adds HD resolutions and gameplay tweaks, or download the massive version 1.13 fan update, which adds new mechanics and experiences that change the game more drastically. But by doing so, you aren't experiencing the original game as it was designed. You create user interface oddities and sprites shrink down to minuscule size.
Look, it's nothing personal, but I gotta make a living. People see me yakking with you and I'm back hawking porno in San Mona.
Does the game have shortcomings? Absolutely. A few quality of life additions like an accuracy rating, better ammo management, and an improved interface would have made the experience more accessible. And a few soft lock bugs remain even today, like the infamous spinning stopwatch bug that occurs when an NPC gets stuck during pathfinding. But Jagged Alliance 2 is one of the most fascinating implementations of role-playing, tactics, and a strategic metagame I've ever played. So why didn't it win the hearts of North American players at launch? It could be the changing landscape of games in 1999, where strategy titles were moving toward real-time like StarCraft, and consoles were on the rise. It could have had something to do with the game's relative inaccessibility, or maybe it was simply bad luck, lack of marketing, or poor timing. As we saw in the flops that were System Shock 2 and Planescape Torment, two now legendary games from the same year, sometimes success just isn't in the cards. Looking back now, between several mods, revivals, and an official Jagged Alliance 3, released with the help of Ian Curry, the original game's designer and coder, maybe the series has a brighter future in store for us. I hope you found my review of this game interesting. For more reviews and documentaries, let me know in the comments what you'd like to see me cover in the future. This has been Indigo Gaming, and as always, thanks for watching.